Hello and welcome to, quite possibly, my witchiest self. Today we're going to be doing a video about 5 different books that surprised me, for better or for worse. The first book is The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, and I was surprised by this book by how much I liked it. Because, I mean, hello, not only is this one of the most beautiful books that I own, but also because I don't love short stories. As much as I appreciate the skill that it takes to write short stories versus long form, I much more appreciate to have time to sink into a story and have time to like process and be really in it. You know what I'm saying? I was surprised when I read this by how much it affected me. It's not necessarily that I just loved every single story, and there were ones that I enjoyed more than others, but I'm always surprised by how much this really stuck with me. Like, it low-key kind of got under my skin, and I still think about it every once in a while. A book that surprised me by how bad it was is a book by Celia Rees, who is generally like a young adult author who I really enjoyed because I had books of hers like The Witch Child, which I'm sure you can guess really resonated with me. She had a book out called Sauve, which I saw once in a chapters, and I was like, this book, I'm connecting with this book, especially because I actually really love covers like this, like covers that are like frontal or profile, like portraits. It was that kind of an image, and I was like, yes, we're gonna be in this. I can feel it. And so it took me forever to find it again. When I did find it, the cover had changed, and when I was younger, I used to be absolutely vicious about cover changes. I viscerally hated them, but I was like, oh, this book sounded so good, I'll get over it. And oh my god, this book was a fucking mess. I had such high hopes given the fact that she'd written so many things that I enjoyed, and this book was a disaster. Like, it was 4 different stories in one book. It was absolute nonsense. Like, it just kept switching tone. It didn't know what it was supposed to be. I was like, how did this even get published? Like, the next one is the weirdest one out of all of them, and that was John Newton by Catherine Swift. This was the first biography I ever read, and I read it when I was quite young. I don't even think I was in high school. I think I would have been like 13 maybe, and I don't know why, but I just enjoyed this story so much, and I think it might be because it was the first biography I read, and you know how much I love autobiographies and biographies. John Newton is known for writing songs such as Amazing Grace. He was essentially captured as a young person and forced to work on a ship that was part of the slave trade. And then he eventually became involved in the African slave trade, and he ended up joining William Wilberforce, who's one of the foremost abolitionists in Great Britain and was probably the most forceful and successful with legislation. What I found really interesting was his like dramatic conversions and then like lack of faith. Like, he would be super religious and then be like, no, I'm an atheist. Just kidding, I'm super religious, now I'm an atheist. He was kind of like the Anne Rice of his time, I don't know. And he eventually did become an Anglican clergyman, and he didn't like any of the hymns and he wrote his own. I still don't know how I feel about this whole situation and why I enjoyed it. I don't know. This one was more one that just disappointed me, and that was The Swan Maiden by Heather Tomlinson. And this was because my book buying habits as a young person is that I would go to the specific bookstores, and that's the only like knowledge I had of what was out there, right? Like, I wasn't like out here on BookTube listening to people talk about different books, right? It was really limited to what was physically in front of me. And so this is one of the books that I had, again, like targeted and was like, this one, I'm gonna get this one, I'm gonna like this one, and I didn't. It was just so not at all what I expected from like the marketing and the blurbing of this book, which is such a shame because it is such a beautiful book, and it is that kind of like not quite middle grade, but middle grade to YA, kind of in the in-between of there, kind of like fantasy-ish, which is what I really, really enjoyed as a young person and still do. So it was just like, really, why can't everything just live up to my expectations? And the last one is The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman, which is the 3rd book in the Dark Material series. And this one surprised me because of how much I liked it, because I read the first 2 and thought they were super fucking boring. And then loved this book so much. Like it's just such a good book. Like I was so invested in it, and when it was over, I cried, I wept with feeling. I remember just feeling absolutely miserable when this book ended, but like in a good way. Like, you know, when a book just like gets you and you're like upset, but like, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I would love to hear about some of books that surprised you, for better or for worse. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. I will see you soon.